Hello everyone, this is Ketish here. In this video, I'm going to go through the AQA Combined Science Biology Paper 1 Foundation Tier from 2024. This video is going to be a full video. I will be going through questions 1 to question 5. This paper, however, has 7 questions. Now, questions 1 to 5 are foundation tier questions, which only appear in the foundation level paper. Question 6 and 7 are higher tier questions, which appear in the higher tier paper as question 1 and question 2. And I've done separate videos for the higher paper, so I will link it to the playlist at the end of this video. So let's have a look at question number 1, which is on the topic of cell biology. This question is about cells. Figure 1 shows an animal cell, so you've got 3 labels. Label parts A, B, and C on figure 1. So A is the cell membrane. B is the nucleus. And C is the cytoplasm. This cell will not have a cell wall or a chloroplast because they are found only in plant cells. What is the function of the nucleus in a cell? That would be to control the activities of the whole cell, to contain a solution called cell sap, that is the vacuole, control the movement of substances into and out of the cell, that's the cell membrane. What is the function of mitochondria in a cell? To release energy in respiration, to produce glucose during photosynthesis, that's the chloroplast job. Found in plant cells, to produce proteins for the cell, that would be ribosomes. Figure 2 shows a light microscope. So you have the eyepiece lens, arm, focus control, base, mirror, stage, and objective lens. The student is given a pre-prepared slide of animal cells to view using the microscope. Complete the sentences. Place the slide on the stage. Using the objective lens that has low power, look through the eyepiece lens. Direct the light by moving the mirror. Make the image larger by using the high power objective lens. So remember, the focus control is to make the image clearer. Figure 3 shows a different animal cell. So you have an animal cell with the values X and Y. That is going to be the length of the animal cell from there to there. Calculate the magnification of the image in figure 3. Complete the following steps. Measure the width of the image from Y to Z in millimeters. Now for this, you would need to use a ruler in your exam, and that would measure to be 36 millimeters. Give the width of the image in micrometers. And they're saying that 1 millimeter is equal to 1000 micrometers. So you would need to multiply this 36 by 1000, which will give you 36,000 micrometers. The cell in figure 3 has a real width of 40 micrometers. Use the equation to calculate the magnification. So width of the image is 36,000 micrometers. Divide that by 40, which is, let me get rid of that. 40, and that would give you a magnification of 900. 900. Question number 2 is on the topic of bioenergetics. A student investigated the loss of mass from leaves that were placed in winds of different speeds. The student used an electric fan to create the different wind speeds. So you have a leaf hanging by a paper clip on a stand and a fan in front of it. This is not actually required practical. This is the method used. Record the mass of one leaf taken from a plant. Attach the leaf to a stand. Leave for 1 hour with the fan on. Record the final mass of the leaf. Repeat steps 1 to 4 with the fan set at different speeds. Use leaves of similar size each time. So they're controlling the size of the leaf. Calculate the loss of mass for each leaf. So with the fan off, the loss of mass is 0.06, low speed 0.15, minimum speed 0.23, high speed 0.31. Why did the student do one experiment with the fan off? That's basically used as a control. It was used as a control. I'm going to add a little bit more information to compare with the other results. How did increasing fan speed affect the loss of mass from the leaves? Use table 1. Well, increasing the speed increases the loss of mass of water. Explain why the mass of the leaves decreased at all fan speeds. Now, the reason for the loss. Explain why the mass of the leaves decreased at all fan speeds. Water was lost from the leaves since it evaporated from the stomata. These 3 points will give you 3 marks. The student repeated the investigation in a room at a higher temperature. Complete the sentence, choose the answer from the box. At a higher temperature, the loss of mass from the leaves would be greater. How would the student check the repeatability of the results? Do the investigation again using a different method. No, that will not work. You want to be the same method. You can't use a different type of plant. It has to be the same method. Next question is on the topic of the principles of organization. It's about the blood. Figure 5 shows different parts of the blood. So you have A, B, C, and D. Let's label them. This empty space is actually the liquid part, which is the plasma. This B is the red blood cell. C is a white blood cell. D is platelets. Which letter shows a white blood cell? That would be C. Which part of the blood causes the blood to clot? That would be the platelets, which is D. Name two substances transported in the blood. You could say glucose. There's a whole range of things that you can actually say. Glucose, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, proteins. Can you say proteins? You can say actually amino acids. Proteins are too big. Amino acids, antibodies, urea, lactic acid, vitamins, minerals, right? We just need two of them. Healthy people can volunteer to donate blood. The donated blood is then given to patients who need the blood. When a volunteer donates blood, the volunteer's health is checked. A needle is used to remove blood from a vein in the arm. The volunteer rests for 15 minutes after the donation. Suggest one reason why blood is removed from a vein and not from an artery. Well, because it's under low pressure, so it'll actually flow smoothly. If it is an artery, then it will be at high pressure and the bleeding it's going to be hard to stop the bleeding. So blood is under low pressure. So it's, you don't need to give a reason, but I'm just going to give a reason just to make it clear. So it's easy to stop the bleeding after you give blood. Patients may receive blood during a medical emergency. Donating blood and receiving blood has risks. Suggest one advantage and one disadvantage to a patient who receives blood. What is the advantage and the disadvantage? An advantage saves lives, right? Or lives are saved from the patient's point of view, right? Disadvantage is risk of infection, because blood from other people can have certain infections, mainly HIV and hepatitis. So they will check it definitely to see if anyone donating blood has any of the infection. But if there's a mistake along the line, then there can be an infection, and this has happened commonly. Suggest one advantage and one disadvantage to the volunteer who donates blood. Now, if you're donating blood, well, the advantages feel good by helping others. It might actually help them to find certain underlying disease, because maybe if the patient has AIDS or hepatitis, when they check the blood, they might actually let you know, which you might not be aware of. But usually people are doing it because they want to help others. Disadvantage, there is risk of pain or even risk of infection. Risk of infection Well, if the needles are not clean, if there's any infection during that, can happen, and they might have to rest for the rest of the day as well if they might feel tired. This question is about disease. Question number 4 is infection, about infection and response. Gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease. Gonorrhea is sexually, what is the symptom of gonorrhea? Now, damaged immune system is usually by HIV or AIDS. Pain when urinating, that's gonorrhea. Reduced body temperature. I fail to think of anything where the body temperature has been reduced. Could be a liver problem. But usually, if there's a problem, the body temperature actually goes up. Table 2 shows the number of reported cases of gonorrhea for 5 cities. A to E. C and D have the lowest. A, B, and D. A and D seem to have similar values. And B is also high. Okay, the number of cases of gonorrhea in each city might not be accurate. So just one reason why. Well, gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease. Not everyone who gets gonorrhea is going to go around saying, yeah, I got gonorrhea. Even if they're asked in the hospital, they might say, yeah, I never had it. So not all cases are reported, right? Which is the best way to represent the data in table 2? That would be a bar chart, because you've got numbers and different categories. The data is given as per 100,000 of the population and not as the total number of people with gonorrhea. Suggest why? Well, giving it as a day as the number of cases per 100,000, it's easy to compare. Easy to compare, because different cities might have different populations. Deposits can vary. Deposits can form in the coronary arteries. The deposits are called plaques. Plaques cause damage to the arteries. Figure 6 shows plaques in the coronary artery. So you've got its fatty deposits, which are known as plaques. Which two factors increase the risk of plaques forming in the coronary artery? High fat diet, definitely. Low blood sugar, no. Regular exercise, no. Smoking, yes. Taking statins actually helps to relieve the problem. Which treatment can be used for the plaques in figure 6? A stent. You don't know what a stent is. A stent is a small metal mesh. So here, the blood that is actually trying to go through is restricted because of the limited space. So what they do is actually add a small metal wired mesh like this, and they insert a small balloon and fill it up with air till the mesh actually becomes bigger and pushes against the plaques, making the coronary artery big again. So eventually it'll actually look like that, where the mesh is actually sitting like this and the plaque is actually on the side like that. A heart attack can happen when plaques block a coronary artery. Did I miss anything? No. During a heart attack, heart muscles in the heart die. Explain how the blockage can lead to the death of heart muscles in the heart. Well, why would the heart muscles die? If they don't get enough oxygen and glucose, they'll die, right? So if the coronary artery is blocked, right, when a coronary artery is blocked, less oxygen before I go to less oxygen, if it's blocked, not less, no blood flows through, right? If no blood flows through, so less or no oxygen is delivered to the heart muscles. If there is no oxygen delivered to the heart muscles, then there is no aerobic respiration in the muscle cells, which means no energy is produced and then the cells die. Question 5. This question is about photosynthesis. Complete the equation carbon dioxide plus water gives you glucose and oxygen. What is the chemical formula for glucose? That is C6H12O6. Give 2 ways plants use the glucose produced by photosynthesis. What do plants actually use it for? They use it to make cell wall, to make starch, main 2 components, to convert it to starch, usually for storage, to produce cellulose when making cell wall of new cells. There's a couple of other things that you can write. It can be converted to produce oil of fat. It can also be converted to amino acids to make proteins as well. Or it can simply be used for respiration to release energy. A person has 2 greenhouses. In each greenhouse, the plants are all the same type, receive the same light intensity and the same volume of water, grow in the same type of soil. So you have greenhouse A and B. The person burns logs in the wood burner in greenhouse B. Now, so the only difference is the wood burner. Explain why the plants in greenhouse B grow faster than the plants in greenhouse A. So what does the wood burner do? Well, burning wood increases the temperature and releases carbon dioxide. So it does 2 things, right? Now, a higher temperature and carbon dioxide, a higher temperature and carbon dioxide increases the photosynthesis rate. Right? If more photosynthesis is happening, so more glucose is produced. So if it's making more glucose, so more proteins and cellulose are made for new growth. That brings us to the end of this question. Now, question number 6, as I said, is a higher tier question. I have done the video separately for this, and I will link the video for that question separately at the end of this playlist. And question 6 is on principles of organization. Is mainly to do with testing foods, and it's a relatively straightforward question, but there is a 6-mark question about the digestion of protein and fats. And there's also question 7, which is a higher tier question, which is testing on osmosis, which is to do with the required practical. Right? And that's actually a fairly straightforward question where you're interpreting data and drawing a graph. Now that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.